In this video, we're going to discuss how to diagnose a cold email deliverability issue. So a big problem when it comes to cold email is when you get a deliverability issue, when your reply rates are super low, you cannot reach the inbox of your prospects anymore, and you don't know what to do, right? There's a lot of uncertainty. Nobody tells you need to replace domains. Nobody tells you need to replace copy. Nobody tells you really what to do, and you don't know what the next steps are to fix your problem and get back to getting results and higher reply rates. So in this video, we're going to cover what we found, our findings as an agency sending about 2 to 3 cold emails, million cold emails per month on behalf of our clients, as well as the team behind ScaledMail with 800 plus customers overall on aggregate, sending about 20 million cold emails per month. So we're going to go over the 2 problems that people confuse around the deliverability and what to do in each case. Now, most people, when they see a deliverability or a reply rate drop, they just panic, just freak out, and then swap their domains immediately. Now, that is a problem because if you swap your domains, you're going to need to wait another few days to get inboxes set up, and then 2 weeks for the warm-up period for those new inboxes. Usually that leads to a very big delay, and a lot of the time it's not the right move. So here's how to figure out what is wrong and what to do next. So the 2 problems that people confuse, these are 2 completely different problems, right? And 2 completely different reasons why your reply rates might decrease over time. They actually look pretty identical because you're going to see a drop in reply rate, but they're actually very different. So we're talking about copy fingerprinting and then domain or infrastructure damages. Now, if you get copy fingerprinted, what this basically means is that you've sent your copy enough times for Google and Microsoft to figure out that you're bulk sending your emails. So you're going to see that, and you're going to detect if it's a copy fingerprinting problem, if you see a big drop in your reply rates pretty much overnight. So you're going to see this in a matter of 24 to 48 hours. You're going to see your reply rates maybe drop from like 2% to 0.2% or 0.4% pretty much overnight. Now, usually that is a copy fingerprinting problem based on what we've seen for our clients. So the fix is actually very simple. You want to change your copy pretty much entirely. Don't just create a similar variation of that copy. Create a completely different email and then try to send that and see if your reply rates will go back up. Usually, based on what we've seen, if it's a copy fingerprinting problem, you really just need to change your copy and then your reply rates will increase and go back to their normal previous levels. Now, this is pretty common when you're sending a high volume, but also if you're sending a low volume, but you're not using spin tags, you're not using AI personalization in the copy, and your emails always look the same, this probably can happen as well. If it's a domain or infrastructure problem, then you're talking about domains or inboxes being burned or damaged, right? Now, typically, you're going to see this and you're going to detect if it's a or a domain infrastructure burn problem. If you see a slow decline in your reply rates over several weeks, right, a pretty long time frame, and the fix for this is usually just replacing the infrastructure. Don't try to save the infrastructure or putting it in warm up. Based on what we've seen over the past few months, it doesn't really work. So you'd be better off just to replace the infrastructure. Maybe keep some buffer that you don't use and you only use it when you have these deliverability issues, because obviously, as you know, if you need to replace infrastructure, it's going to take a few days for the setup and then 2 weeks for the warm up of the new inboxes. So you don't want to wait for this delay. You want to keep a buffer of inboxes that you can use at any given time if you encounter these deliverability issues. So this is less common if you use account rotation, if you don't max out your inboxes, and you also don't send spammy copy, you don't get many spam complaints, and you do get some engagement, right? I mean, you do get replies, you do get positive responses, you do get engagement from your campaigns, and you get very few spam complaints. This is going to happen less frequently. Now, the signal number 1, the most important signal that should make you think and start thinking about deliverability problems is your reply rates, right? And this is what we've talked about so far, but we never really clarified it. You want to look at the reply rate, and the rule is that if your reply rate drops below 1%, including out of office responses, then that means that something is wrong, right? Now, to be clear, you might still have deliverability issues if your reply rate, including out of offices, might be maybe 1.5% or 2%, right? This doesn't necessarily mean that you're landing in the primary inbox all the time, but if it goes below 1%, including out of office responses, means that you're getting very, very few replies, right? We're talking about less than 10 responses out of 1,000 prospects contacted. So there is something wrong, right? In very, very rare instances, you will get a 1% reply rate or lower than 1% reply rate. And it's just because people don't respond, right? If you include out of office responses in your reply rates, usually you should be getting above 1% reply rate. So also, just to clarify, we never really track the open rates because the tracking is essentially like a link in your email. So it does hurt deliverability. Just keep things simple. So I don't recommend you to track the reply rates. Also because a lot of the time they're very inaccurate. The signal number 2 is bounce messages. So this is something not a lot of people look at, but this is very, very crucial, and it gives you a pretty good indication of what your problem is, right? If you're getting deliverability issues, if you're getting low reply rates, high bounce rates, right? So you want to look at the bounce rate, right? If your bounce rate is high, then you might want to look into the bounce messages, right? So read the bounce messages, and the bounce messages are going to give you a lot of information around what your issue is. It can be usually 3 different problems, right? Recipient not found or mailbox does not exist. This is an email validation problem. So it means that there is something wrong in your email validation, your list building process. Maybe you didn't validate the emails that you're sending to, and these are essentially invalid, and so they're going to bounce, right? This is the simplest and most well-known type of bounce that you can get. Now, the second type of bounce that we see is message blocked or detected as spam, detected as junk, right? This is usually a copy problem or a reputation problem, right? Which means that the email reached the server, reached the inbox, but got rejected because maybe the copy was fingerprinted, the copy was detected as spam or as junk, right? And so it was rejected, right? This typically tells you that you need to replace your copy, you need to change your copy, but it doesn't really always is the case, right? So also you might get a very, very high bounce rate on already verified emails. Like we're talking about 20, 30, 50%, up to 70% bounce rate on verified emails are actually valid, right? This typically indicates most of the time a Microsoft tenant block. So if you're using Microsoft inboxes, this applies to you. If you're using Google, then this is not the case. If you're using Microsoft inboxes and you're getting a very, very high bounce rate in these sort of figures, then it is most likely a tenant block, right? So you want to contact your provider in this case, and then have the team of your provider, of your inbox vendor, fix this tenant block on your end. For example, at ScaledMail, you can simply contact the support team in your dedicated Slack channel, and they're going to fix the tenant block for you within 1 day. Now, the signal number 3 is inbox placement tests, right? So if you have uncertainty around, if you have deliverability issues, if you're getting deliverability problems or not, you want to run placement tests as well. So you can use placement tests, or you can run placement tests using EmailGuard. If you're using Email Bison as the sequencer, you can also integrate EmailGuard with Email Bison, and you can run your email placement tests directly on your campaigns with your campaign copy as well. And the placement tests, what they will tell you is they will tell you whether your infrastructure, your email infrastructure is in good shape, right? Now, to be clear, the placement tests do not detect copy fingerprinting. So this means that your infrastructure could be totally in good shape, but you might still not reach the primary inbox of your prospects because your copy is fingerprinted. So these are 2 separate problems. And then also a lot of the time we've seen that you might get very good placement test results, but you might still be landing in spam in some cases. And so you want to run placement tests, but you don't want to rely too much on them. You don't want to give too much weight to the placement tests because in some cases we've seen they are slightly inaccurate. Now, in order, what you want to do is if you suspect you're getting deliverability issues, you want to do the following. You want to understand how fast did the reply rates drop, right? If it's overnight, if it's in the matter of 24 to 48 hours that you saw a big decrease in reply rates, it is most likely 90% of the time a copy fingerprinting issue. So this is easy and fast to fix because you can simply change your copy entirely, right? You run your campaign, even just with the same leads, you run the campaign with the new copy, and you should be able to see a higher reply rate if it is a copy fingerprinting problem, right? If it's a gradual decline over weeks in your reply rates, it is most likely an infrastructure problem. Again, this is based on what we've seen sending about 2 to 3 million cold emails per month on behalf of our clients at Beanstalk Consulting, right? So if it's a infrastructure issue, you want to move to step 2, right? You want to check your bounce messages. You want to see if it's because of invalid emails. Maybe you're getting a lot of invalid emails. Also, if you have a very, very high bounce rate, you also will get, as a consequence, a lower reply rate. And then one thing here is you want to look for spam or blocked messages. This might be a copy or reputation problem. So again, you want to look at all of these factors, all of these things, because none of these factors, none of these variables tell you exactly what your problem is. So you want to look at pretty much everything anyway, and then you want to determine what your issue is and how to fix it, right? If it's a very, very high bounce rate on verified emails, it probably is a Microsoft tenant block. You want to contact your provider, your inbox provider, and ask them to fix the tenant block. You also will run inbox placement tests if you're getting a infrastructure deliverability problem, right? So you want to confirm whether the infrastructure is in good shape or not. If you get very bad placement test results, you might want to consider replacing the infrastructure. And then if this is not fixed, if all of these things still do not fix your problem and do not inform you on what the actual problem is, you can just do a domain swap, right? So again, we always recommend to keep some buffer infrastructure just in case you might get some deliverability issues. So keep your buffer infrastructure, use it when you have deliverability issues, and then in the meantime, you can do a domain swap, which is going to take 2 weeks, for the warm up usually, and then a few days for the setup of the inboxes. And then in the meantime, you can use your buffer infrastructure, right? On ScaledMail, domain swap is pretty straightforward. You can do it right inside of the platform. The team handles the entire setup of all of your inboxes on your new domains completely for free, right? So the only cost is the cost of your domain. And then the replacement of all of the inboxes, the done for you setup, all the technical records and setup is done for you completely for free. So if you don't want to deal with this yourself, ScaledMail handles the entire cold email infrastructure for high volume cold email senders, but also people at the beginning, when they want to start sending some cold emails for their businesses. We get a lot of those customers as well. So ScaledMail gets you dedicated Microsoft and Google inboxes, each with their own isolated tenant or admin panel, right? So one admin panel per domain, which means that it's the safest type of approach. Even if you burn one domain, all of your other domains will be completely safe and your entire infrastructure will be safe. This is unlike some other providers that put all of your domains into one admin panel, or even worse, they put other customers' domains into your admin panels, making it a lot more risky for you to run cold emails, because some other customer might get their domains damaged, and then suddenly all of your domains, all of your infrastructure is damaged as well. So pretty big plus about ScaledMail. The team also monitors your deliverability on a weekly basis with inbox placement tests, which is going to inform you on whether your infrastructure is still in good shape or you might need a domain swap. So if you don't want to handle deliverability all manually, I highly recommend you to check out ScaledMail. You can go and then create a free account. I can show you as well how to go here and set up a package. It's extremely simple. This is the dashboard. You want to go to buy inboxes and then go to the plan builder, which is going to allow you to set up your own package, your own custom package. You can go here, select sending tier, max volume. Let's say you want to send 1,000 cold emails per day. That's the volume you want to reach with your ScaledMail package, with your inboxes. And let's say you want a diversified approach, right? Let's say you want a little bit of Google inboxes, but also some Outlook inboxes because you want to be diversified. And it is also the safest approach that we recommend. 2 inboxes per domain from Google, 45 inboxes per domain for Microsoft, Azure type setup. And the distribution, you want to keep 50-50, or let's say you want to increase the allocation of capacity to Google inboxes, which is going to mean basically you're going to send more volume from Google inboxes, less from Outlook within this package, right? So you want to do a 50-50 approach, click on split even. And then this is the add-on I was talking about. Essentially, this is going to send you a weekly report on all of your inboxes, all of your Google or Microsoft inboxes on a weekly basis. Placement test, you're going to see the results in the reporting section right here. Very simple. And it allows you to always stay informed on your health of your infrastructure. And then domain setup, you might already own some domains. In that case, you want to click on bring my own domains. Or if you want to purchase domains, rich domains from ScaledMail, you can also do that and then click on buy from ScaledMail. Right? Very, very simple, gives you the cost, the total breakdown, the capacity. This is going to be 30,000 emails per month. And you can click on continue, do the checkout. And then after that, very quick onboarding page. It's going to ask you for sender names, website want to forward domains to, and your sequencer, because the ScaledMail team is also going to connect all of your inboxes to your sequencer and reconnect them to your sequencer in case they get disconnected for whatever reason. So that's pretty much it. It's very, very simple to go ahead and set up some ScaledMail inboxes. So if you have any questions, let me know. Feel free to DM me on LinkedIn or send your questions in the comments of this video. That being said, I hope you have a great rest of your day and I appreciate your attention.